Hey y'all, welcome to part 3 of this prompt flow series. So in this part, we will do continuation of part 2 where we see what the prompt flow variants are. Prompt flow variants is nothing but you can use something called variants to test out the effectiveness of your prompts. For example, I'm showing you a very simplistic case, but it is also a very powerful one, wherein, for example, you have actually two template files associated with two um, different prompts. I made them obviously very uh, you know unrelated just for us. So, for example, I have two variants of my chat. So these two variants, let me show you what I'm talking about to begin with. So there is an input, there is an output, and there is a variant. So if you expand them, previously for our chat module, we used to have only one variant, right? So, or other words, only one prompt associated or one Jinja file associated. Now I have actually two prompts two prompts associated with two different variants of the same chat, right? So that, for example, one of the prompts I could test with GPT-4, one of the prompts I could test with GPT-35 Turbo. But the two Jinja files are different. So let's see. For example, in case one, I'm saying you're a medical assistant, lock down all the responses to anything related to health, whatever. And the second one is just our old prompt. So my point is I want to demonstrate to you um, of how to see these variants, right, in action. So if I were to run such flow like this, for example, for the very first time, for any input I have given, let's say let's say I set variant 0 as default for now, and then I run the flow. I use default variant, and let's see how it runs. Okay, for the variant 1, right? Whatever question I asked, what is the next best thing after chat GPT, right? So I asked a irrelevant question. It said, I focus on health related matters currently. I can't predict the next best innovation after chat GPT. Fine. Now, let me test my other prompt. I will set this as default and I will run the same. Okay. And now let's see what answer GPT 3.5. The next bit, yeah, of course, it returned a different answer, right? For that. So, my point being, this is a very simple demonstration. However, I want to make a point here that we actually could do something called variants. And if if you go to our dagflow.yaml, um, I put a sample of how to use the variants for the example. I will attach this code and put the GitHub location underneath the video. So you don't need to worry about what this code is. You put this code and you try it and it will run. And also I will point links to Microsoft GitHub where prompt flow tool, how to use it and all of that stuff. All of these links I will again put and point these links below the video. um, so this is a rather simple thing, but yet very powerful. You can create as many variants of any node. In this case, I have used, like as an example, an LLM node, but you don't need to do so. You can have variants for other things too. and you can actually test different logic, and you can actually um, create, right, your prompt engineering in such a way that you experiment what circumstances yield what result, and compare them, right? So with single record it doesn't make any sense, but soon enough we will see how to run all of these um, as in a batch mode, right, with multiple datas at that time when you are testing your flows with massive volume, of course, right? So you can evaluate the two different variants, um, and figure out, right, which variant gives you the best bang for your buck. With that said, let's move on to the next topic: how to evaluate the flows. Let's see, evaluate flows in action. Um, so for this, I want you to expose to the Microsoft's PromptFlow GitHub repository. Um, so the repository link I will paste on the video screen also. So it is it is github.com/Microsoft promptflow.git. So let's go back. So you clone the repository, you can find all the examples you could possibly imagine, right? They're maintaining this one beautifully. Um, so you can actually go to um, evaluation groundedness if you want to, follow this tutorial later on. Underneath that, you see the flow dag, right? So I always go to flow dag. So by now you understood that. Then go to visual editor, and let's actually see how you evaluate the flows, right? So evaluation flow usually is a two-step exercise. Step number one is you need to find a way to score the actual LLM's output with your uh, ground truth, right? So, and you have to put a number to that, right? How close they are. For example, how many terms that you are expecting to be in a response from the LLM really are um, really are in your ground truth. For example, you can choose some keywords in your ground truth and say how many of these keywords are present in the actual summary generated by uh, the LLM. So, and in that case, you can come up with a score, right? So that's a very naive example. But what I wanted to show, and the good thing about this is, you can use the large language model to score, right? So, for example, let's take a look at what I'm talking about. So, you can write a prompt such that, right, your goal is to score a question, answer, and the context on a scale of 1 to 10, right? So, how do you score? So, you tell it how to score, right? If the answer is stating the facts that are present in the context, of course, this is the ground truth, right? That you are giving it, then give it a score of 10. If it is not, then give it a score of 1, right? If it is, not a perfect match, then it is somewhere in between 1 and 10, right? So this is a way of scoring, and you are taking LLM's help to score your ground truth against the actual value, right? Or against the actual output um, that um, LLM uh, might generate, right? So that's how this is being done. So if you see here, so the input contains, yeah, the question, right, you're asking. So the answer, specific information. So this is pretty much, like, you can say that, um, you know within the context, what is, for example, an expected answer, right? And if the expected answer, is it within a context or not? If it is within the context, then, give it a score between 1 and 10. So having said that, right, so the next thing, once the GPT model compares, um, compares the scores, um, so it compares if the answer is stating facts that are present in the context, right? So how near the context is with the answer. So then GPT sends you some score. So for example, in this case, when I ran this last time, GPT sent an output saying 1, right? And you parse that 1. And then parsing is a Python language, right? So just use parse it. So all this means is you perform a regular expression and take whatever summary the LLM is provided. If it contains any English language and a number, or if it starts with a number in this case, and if it starts with negative, um, or positive decimal value dot something, or a whole number, then, get that number and convert it into a float is what this is doing. And now the aggregation, what it does is, aggregation is also a Python script. It will actually aggregate, um, all the, let's say now I am passing only one record, but let's say I'm passing like, uh, 10,000 records with um, the, uh, 10,000 questions, the valid answers, and the context, um, and the answer, like how near is the answer that is provided by the LLM to the context, right? So, and all of those scores, if I say how many of the scores that has the high value divided by, for example, if you ask six questions, let's say it answered 36, um, 6 each, 36, and let's say each can have a possible 10 points, so 60. 36 divided by 60 is the evaluation score of that, right? So this is kind of a good example for evaluation. A lot of my customers do ask me about evaluation, how to do evaluation. You could be as innovative in doing evaluation. Like, I think all of these examples are good examples and a good representation. I can't go through all of them. Hope this makes sense. And let's stop this video here. So these are some of the best practices you will be implementing on your flows in order not only to see and evaluate different variants of the prompts, but also to evaluate how correct the data that is outputting by these LLMs are uh, to the actual context, and the truth, right? Which we call groundedness. So um, we'll see um, how to actually run this with a big data set, and then how to deploy it as an application. And we conclude there in part 4. Talk to you all.